When will it end? Islamist slaughters teen in knife attack in Austria. A peaceful afternoon in Villach, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry, guys. Austria turned into a nightmare on February 15th when a 23-year-old Syrian asylum seeker unleashed a brutal knife attack, killing a 14-year-old boy and injuring five others in broad daylight. Armed with a folding knife, the attacker slashed at random passersby in the city's main square until I don't know, Alaaeddin Alhalabi, a Syrian food delivery driver, became an unexpected hero. Quote, I didn't think twice and I drove at him. It threw him several meters away, Al Halabi recalled, adding with heartbreak, if I had been faster, the 14-year-old might not have died. Austrian authorities later revealed that the attacker had pledged allegiance to ISIS, with police finding ISIS flags and evidence of rapid online radicalization in his home. Quote, this was an Islamist attack with ties to ISIS, declared Interior Minister Gerhard Karner, igniting a national outrage. As the town mourns the senseless loss, Al Halabi's courageous act stands out as a powerful reminder that even in the face of terror, humanity can still rise. So, let's give a bit of a background. So, the perpetrator, who I think his name has just only been revealed as like Ahmad G, I don't know his full name, um, came to Austria, I think when he was a minor, and he was granted asylum, to my knowledge. And what has been reported so far is that basically he went through a process of rapid online radicalization um, over the span of just like 3 months, apparently, and was all following all sorts of ISIS stuff all over his TikTok. And I don't know, for whatever reason, one day just decided to go to the town square and just start attacking a bunch of people with knives. He killed a 14-year-old boy. He injured five others who were, I think, all men. I think a few people were in critical condition, might still be in critical condition. And what ended up happening was that there was this guy who was a delivery driver, and who himself was a Syrian national who'd come to Austria for asylum. This delivery driver just sees this attack happening and just straight up drives into the attacker. And he is able to stop the attack because he just hit the attacker with his car. Um, I actually thought it was really sad how it seems like he almost blames himself a little bit, because he said, "If I had been faster, like, that boy maybe wouldn't have died." Um, Even though he probably saved many people's lives by taking really quick action in hitting, um, the attacker. Um, and so basically, the attacker gets hit with the car, he goes flying back, he's kinda, like, knocked back and whatever. At that point,
Oh,
can you hear me?
um, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Basically, police are able
Your
to stop.
mic switch. Your mic switch, by the way. While you figure that out, can I show the picture of the guy? Because while you were
Yeah.
speaking, I went and find the. Yeah, look at this. Is this the moment after killed the 14-year-old boy while the police is trying to arrest? Is this the same? This is
Yeah,
look the way he's chilling. Holy
absolutely
shit! This
chilling.
guy's a look at this monster. This is after he killed the 14-year-old boy, and when the
Yeah.
police is trying to arrest him, and look at the smile on that face.
Smiling with the Tawhid finger.
Oh yeah, with the Tawhid finger is basically pointing the oneness of Allah. Look at that. Look how this is the face of evil. What the fuck? Okay, but go on. Sorry, your mic is correct now.
No, you basically said exactly what I wanted to highlight.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. it's so infuriating how in the face of this, there are still, like, community leaders that come forward and say that, this is not the true face of Islam every single time that these events happen. Like, how often there were so many attacks that happened over the past week. It was crazy. When I was researching this story yesterday, I realized that there were attacks that happened that I didn't even hear about. There was this
Yeah.
attack. There's the attack that we're going to cover next. There was an attack in France that I didn't even know about that killed a person while the guy was screaming Allahu Akbar. There was the other one. Then there was the one that happened just a few days ago that we're not covering this week. That was the attack at the Holocaust Museum in Germany. Like, it's out of control. Absolutely out of control. And I don't know if people within Europe see it this way. I don't I the way that I see it is that personally, if I was living in Europe, I would not see these as separate attacks. I would not see this as, oh, this happened in Austria, this happened in Germany, this happened in England, this happened in France. Like, all of those happening simultaneously. It might not literally be my country, but I would be feeling the effects of that. I would identify with it to some extent. When these happened across the Atlantic, I identify with that because I identify with the feeling of saying it's not a matter of if it happens, it's when it happens. Because I've said this before and I'll say this again. For people of my age, we do not know a different world. I do not know a different world. I do not know a world of, oh, if this would happen. I only know a world for my entire life of when will this happen? And I personally believe that it is a moral and existential imperative to come up with the strictest deportation regime possible and start looking at how to repatriate people as quickly as possible. I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit on the next story because part of my commentary is specific to Germany and the next story is in Germany. Um but it's just it's like how I titled this story, just when will it end? When will it end? Even the authorities themselves said that they would not have been able to prevent this attack even if there were more monitoring or whatever because he was a lone wolf. They have no evidence to believe that he acted with anyone else. But I think we can all identify that there are certain populations that are more vulnerable to this kind of attack than others. This isn't rocket science. Like, a genuine question. Like, I'm not like being play, whatever. Like, why is this so common with asylum seekers and refugees from a Muslim background? Are there any examples of a refugee of a Christian background doing these kinds of attacks? If a refugee of a Christian background gets their application rejected, I'm actually genuinely asking, is there a single instance of them going and creating a revenge attack against society? The society that housed them for years. Like, I personally cannot think of a single example. What is it that justifies this mentality of it is acceptable and righteous for me to go commit an attack against all society because I'm upset, that is constantly originating out of this. I'm Yeah, and John is saying we have the ex-Muslim guy in Germany in the Magdeburg attack. Yeah, no, but that still applies to what I'm saying. He's a guy of a Muslim background. I'm like genuinely questioning, like, what is there a single example of like a Christian immigrant or refugee like doing something like this? The closest thing that I can think of is Axel Rudikabana. He didn't have a Muslim background. He was just a fucking freak.
I mean, even if you can find examples, it's just the numbers are so widely different
Yeah.
that these exceptions don't matter in the whole scale of the. Yeah. I mean, we have somebody who disagrees with us in the chat, and I wanted to respond to that, but I was waiting until you make your point.
Yeah, no, I'm done.
So, okay, so Kelvin saying, I'm not for mass deportation nor mass migration. Immigration requires nuance. And then Kelvin says, some people do need help from persecution, right?
Sure.
The thing, the thing is that you have enough people that you could, because every country has their own quota, right? And that they, under international law, they're required to help people from other places, right? And I'm just, why wouldn't you just do that with non-Islamic countries? Why don't you just fill your requirements from non-Islamic countries? It's not like um, the same amount of people are going to be helped anyways, right? So why would you have to go? Why would you risk your country by bringing in people from Islamic, even if they do deserve help? The thing is that these countries have demonstrated to be either incapable or unwilling or lack the resources to be capable of such nuance or the capability to detect exactly who to let in. I mean, given the vast numbers of people who are clearly economic migrants and not refugees coming in with the name of refugees, well, then just shut the whole fucking thing down. Like I told Susanna this example. I gave her this example, right? So imagine if one of your fingers has an infection, and if you don't cut the finger off, it's going to spread, and you're going to die, right? And then I come I come to you, and then we say, like, you know what? Is this finger is infected, but we don't know. Maybe infection has spread to some other fingers as well, and maybe cutting the finger is not enough, and let's just cut off the entire hand. You could come and argue to me that, listen, those four other fingers are not infected, and it would be a waste to cut off the entire hand because it's only this one finger that is infected. And I ask you, are you sure? You're not sure. So it might be true that cutting those four other fingers, these four other fingers are not a problem. And it might be true that cutting the entire hand would be a huge waste. That might be true. But do you want to risk it? Given that the very like your whole, that risking it could actually risk the entire body, that you could actually die if you try to risk for the sake of those four fingers that might not be problematic. You might be actually, your life and death is actually being at risk here. This is an existential crisis. So even though it might be a waste, cut off the entire hand. Cut off the entire hand, even if it was a waste to cut off those other four under fingers. I don't know. You could go and then find those examples of the people that deserved to be protected, and people that their lives have been ruined because of such policies, and you would be rightfully angered by why we didn't help them. And you could also agree, you would be correct to see that those people were deserving of help and support. But that cost, I see that cost and that tragedy, and I put it next to the weakening of the very foundations of countries, the principles and way of life and the values that has made certain countries so much better and a role model for the rest of the world to progress. Like the when we're talking about Western liberal countries, we're talking about a method and a roadmap and certain values that has brought us out of such high level of misery that if you threaten the foundations, the values that made these countries like that, the consequences of those are so much higher to the entire world compared to the examples of people that you could find for me that deserved help and we did not help. I don't know if I am effectively communicating this with you guys or not. Like, do you guys understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
It might seem cruel, but I'm just doing a cost benefit analysis. This is people's, like, this is all comes to people's lives. And I'm talking all people's lives, the entire world. I'm not just talking about protecting liberal countries, Western countries. I'm talking for the sake of the whole world. Because even if non-Western countries or non-liberal countries, if there's any hope for them to get to a place where they have better lives, we need to keep the countries that have made that progress where they are at, so that those other countries could reach them. If they fall, everyone falls. If they fall, everyone falls. So I'm just talking. This is about numbers of people hurt. This is not about not valuing other people's lives. This is about how many lives are we talking here.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I'm very interested in Denmark's policies because Denmark has
Yes.
taken a strong stance on this kind of thing from a left-leaning perspective, actually.
Hmm.
Um, they've brought down their refugee numbers as low as humanly possible. They are doing all sorts of things like how they're breaking up ghettos, they're mandated like language classes and integration classes and all this stuff. It goes much deeper. Um, and frankly, if we're being completely honest, if countries, because a lot of it, like from a legal perspective, you cannot have discrimination on the basis of like nationality or religion, right? Well, if countries just looked at the question of where are countries of origin where people, as a statistical fact, are net contributors to the welfare state versus people who never positively contribute to the welfare state, and just looked at it from that perspective and said, we are going to accept the lowest possible number of people of countries of origin that are never net contributors to the welfare state. They are only a net drain on the welfare state. If you purely look at it from that perspective and just say, we're just going to take as low possible people of the people that are net negative to the welfare state and just cut that out, that would solve like 90% of the problem. And we only know that in Denmark because Denmark is like the only country that actually tracks that kind of information.
Right. I
Um,
mean, it's clear that the economic argument does not apply to people coming from Middle East and North Africa. Like, we have studies in this, because a lot of people who are against, um, very extreme policies against migration, they will point you to studies that shows that migration is a net benefit to the economies of the countries. Okay, and some people say, like, you know what, even if that is true, fuck that, we rather economically grow a little bit slower and not have our values and our safety be threatened in such a way. But the point is that actually there
It
are
doesn't
other
have to be
studies
either
that
or.
show, yeah, but here's another thing. There are studies that actually, when it breaks it down, there are certain types of migration that is actually not an economic benefit to your country. That's true, as a whole. Migration, when done right, is good for a country's economy. But there are many studies out there now that if you actually break it down to migration from North Africa and Middle Eastern countries, is actually it has been a net cost
No, it's
economically
it's it's
to a country.
MENA plus Pakistan.
MENA, so okay, so North Africa, Middle East, and Pakistan, and Afghanistan, I would add, because Afghanistan is not in the Middle East either, right?
Yeah, it wasn't included in
So,
that data set, but
but I could bet that's also true. Okay, so that, based on that data set, yeah, that's, you're actually not benefiting in any way, not economically, not culturally, not safety. It's actually, it's a cost in every way that you could measure it.
across
By
the
the way,
entire
I also want to,
lifetime. Because that's what people don't
yes, yes,
understand. When you're a kid, you're a drain on the welfare state. Then you grow, grow, grow. You
yeah,
contribute, you contribute, and then you get older, and then you pull from the welfare state again.
right.
There are
So
some
for all,
countries of origin that never break even. They never pass
yes,
the contributor
so for
baseline.
every for basically what Susanna said, for every demographic, when you're a child or when you're old, you're a net drain economically. But for some communities, you're a net drain always, even in the working period of your working age, you're still a net drain to society, and that's the people from
And
North
and
Africa,
to
Middle
be clear,
East.
it's not a matter of what generation you are. Because sure,
Mm,
maybe if you're a first generation immigrant, that might be a thing. And I don't think anyone like would begrudge that. Like, well, I mean, some people would. That's expected. But we're talking about multiple generations and still observing that.
yeah.
That's wild.
So even if you're not a first generation migrant, you're a second or third generation migrant from that area, you're still a net drain on average to society. That's insane. And also, by the way, can I go back to this picture of this person? Like, look now, because a lot of people think like, oh, the Muslims who are a threat are the ones with the beard, with the weird Pakistani clothing. But look, I mean, this guy looks like an average young
Like any
kid,
given 23-year-old I would see.
yeah, like you don't see the big beard, you don't see that Islamic, I don't know, whatever they put on their head,
The little
you don't see
skull
the,
cap.
yeah, the Pakistani dress that men wear, like you don't see any of that. Like this is like, yeah, so this
Do you
makes
mean a
the level of
thobe?
threat a lot.
Is that what you mean?
I don't know what the fuck you call that, whatever they
Dude, I'm
wear.
not gonna lie, a thobe looks comfortable.
Yes.
Sorry. I had this conversation with my boyfriend recently. I was like, low key, if you were wearing a thobe, I wouldn't mind. It looks comfortable as hell.
I don't know, I consider it backwards. Maybe I'm being
That's
racist.
just because of your westernized Iranian mindset.
Actually, in Iran, people are disgusted by that kind of clothing more than in the West. Like Iranians consider that type of clothing as a demonstration of backwardness more than I've seen people in Western countries see that. So this is more. This is not. This is Iranians brainwashing me, not Westerners
Yeah,
brainwashing
exactly. That's what
me.
I'm saying. That's how deep it goes.
Yeah.
Let's go
uh,
to the comments that D found.
yeah. Okay.
So this is the young boy that lost his life.
No
And
fucking
one thing
hell.
that I was thinking about when I was looking at this story and thinking, I was thinking about all of his classmates. And I was thinking of the classmates and the friends of this boy. And maybe people that weren't even his friends, just like kids that go to his school. And how deeply this affects the entire community because I remember at my high school when there was a student that did a self deletion, how that affected everyone far beyond the people that were just friends with that boy. And think about how those kids are gonna grow up and what they're gonna feel. I
Right.
don't know.
Oh, by
How
the way,
how
you
does it
had a
how does it
video.
how does a child of this generation grow up and how do they vote?
I think they're gonna vote. I don't know, maybe Reform or AFD. I think like maybe
In
these
Austria, it's the
parties are going
Freedom
to go.
Party.
Yeah, I think they're gonna vote like that. I think in Europe, I think that's the future of Europe. I don't know. We'll see.
They brought it upon themselves.
We
Politicians,
had a
let me be
video by
clear.
the we had a video by the way that you had for this. We forgot to play that, but maybe we'll do it after these comments if you want to.
Um, honestly, with the
Yeah.
video, I don't think we have
Yeah.
time for it anymore.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. You want to read the caption or the comment? Let's do the comment.
Yeah, so this person is saying should have been shot on the spot. Well, I mean, that's not strictly necessary because he could be brought to trial, all that stuff. Saying also, why are Syrians still, what are they still doing in Europe now that Bashar is gone? Send them back to their utopia. Um, well, I believe, man, I'm gonna conflate Austria and Germany right now, but it's my understanding that either or is revisiting or actually no longer accepting applications from Syria because of the ousting of Assad. Um so that's actually changing. Um but in terms of people that are already there, so they're like, okay, we're not accepting new people because the political situation has changed. Um and again, I cannot remember correctly if I'm talking about Germany or Austria right now because the next story is about Germany. But and then I know that Germany is revisiting their laws and their policies regarding if they can deport people back to Syria, but I'm gonna talk about that more in the next news.
Okay, I don't. This woman, by the way, I don't want to take advice from anybody who has the flags of North Korea, China, and
Yeah, yeah,
Russia
yeah,
in
yeah,
their
yeah.
username. Okay, so, but, I
Yeah,
mean, I
Maverick is
don't care
saying
if you're.
wait, where is it? Those flags, oh my god.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't care if you're making the right point or not. Here, This is a huge red. All of these flags are red flags for me. Okay,
And no,
so.
and that's why they're pissed about the Syrians. Wait, I just put it back together. That's why they're
Oh
pissed at
yeah.
calling it a utopia because
Oh
Bashar is
yeah.
gone. Wait.
Oh, this is an Assad fan. Oh, now I see it.
The resentment jumped out.
Oh, so like, is this what you wanted? Fuck.
God
Okay,
damn.
okay.
Yeah, this person, it could be me, but it seems like there's some sort of pattern.
Yeah, yeah,
Look, I don't want to be one of those people who there's like a trend online of people who call themselves like noticers. They're like, "Oh, I'm just noticing. I'm just a noticer." It's kind of like I'm a just asking questions kind of person, but they're just a straight up anti-Semite. Um, I want people to be clear that we're not falling into that trap because what we're talking about is backed up by so much data. This is not
by
just
data.
like
Yeah,
noticing an anecdotal pattern. Globally, this is statistically supported as a real
that's a good
pattern,
point.
not like
That's a good point to make. I'm glad
anti-Semites
you
being
said
like,
that.
"I'm noticing a pattern."
Yeah, yeah, because
Like, okay, bro.
we're not. Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because guys, the human brain sucks at pattern recognition. Do not
Well,
rely on your brain at pattern recognition. You have to use data. When we say the things that so when we feel like we're noticing a pattern, we're skeptical about it. We go check the data to see if the data. I'm not saying dismiss your pattern recognition. If you're noticing it, don't dismiss it, but go and check the freaking data to see if the pattern that you think you're recognizing is actually backed by data. And I know Susie does that. Okay, so
yeah,
that's what we're saying. Like, uh, yeah.
yeah. Um, okay, so let's go to, oh wait, sorry, comments and super chats. Um,
Yeah, we got so many First of all, I just want to thank today. We got so many super chats. I really want to thank our. I want to thank our community, for. Every time I say community, I have to make fun of it because sometimes I think it's cringe to say our community.
mhm,
I don't know. But yeah, no,
yeah.
but I really want to thank you guys. This is like, you guys are so supportive. Like, you guys don't understand the amount of super chats and members that we get is comparable to a channel that has 200,000 subscribers, not a channel that has 70,000 subscribers. That's why I'm really grateful that
And
this
it
is the
keeps
fan
us
base we have.
going,
And
is the
yeah, it
fuel to
keeps
our
us going.
engine.
Yeah.
Okay, super chats. Sketch therapy is saying, Armin, you spoke on stream with Apostle Prophet and Dawood. Uh,
Done.
David Wood, going over the Shia version of Dawa with them or alone. Is this still a possibility? It'd
Yes.
be an interesting conversation. Yes,
Yes.
I still really want to
Yes.
see that.
Yes, I
Um,
should do that.
there's just so much
I
crazy
have so
shit
much
going
to
on
do.
in our issue sphere right now. I think that's kind of on the back burner. Um,
I will have to follow up with that. Yes.
I I would love that. I loved the last stream that you guys did together. Sketch Therapy had another super chat saying Germany going full Weimar by importing brown shirts. Now, okay, let's not I don't know. I don't really like this language, but I think the
I
point
mean,
stands.
it's true.
Let me like the point stands that a lot of people coming to these countries hold opinions that are far more radical than the opinions of the far right white working class that the left loves to demonize, right? Or paint
Yeah.
in
So
broad strokes and fearmonger about or whatever. Granted, there are far right extremists that are horrible, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of these people have opinions that are worse, more extreme, and higher in quantity, higher in
he's right. He's correct
proportionality.
then. I mean, the language is as the analogy stands then. So this is the sketch therapy. Is like, this is not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
So I know. So I mean, in fact, as you confirmed it yourself, Susie, it's actually worse than that. So you're correct.
I'm like listening to myself talk and I'm like, oh um
Yeah.
and it's just so
Yeah.
ironic because, like feminists campaigning on the street just like don't put two and two together. But what can you do? I used to be one of those people, so I get it. Gasian American gave a super chat. Thank you, my friend, saying should we add brain scans while looking at images to look for unconscious or conscious bias, then we can see which neural maps predict violence. Um,
If it's government mandated,
is
then
there
no.
any
Obviously.
conclusive scientific evidence regarding this? Because I know that the whole idea that was um promulgated very aggressively over the past, I don't know, 10 years about implicit bias actually has my understanding, the whole idea of implicit bias is some degree of very poor
Susie, it
evidentiary
doesn't matter.
standing.
It doesn't matter. Even if it was true, this is too much government overreach. This is too much government overreach, and I would say no. As a libertarian, I would say no. Fuck that. Get the government out of my.
See,
We want to get the
Gasian
government out
American
of
is
some.
always trying to bring his People's Republic of China authoritarian.
Yes, Asian
all of his
American. We go back.
all of his thoughts experiments
Get this.
are
Get this
some
CCP
shade of
shit out of
Chinese
here.
authoritarianism.
Fucking hell. We're trying to reduce government involvement. You wanted them to come look into our fucking brains? That, like, even if this was a good program, I'm pretty sure it would be misused at some point, giving the government this much authority to look into our
Yeah.
fucking minds.
I love how
Yeah, no
Gasian will
way.
come ask some like very esoteric question about like DNA data
Yeah.
use in AI and being like, but social credit scores though.
Fighting, this is basically the very definitions of fighting monsters by creating a bigger monster. That's basically
hmm
what's happening. Yeah.
Also,
Anyways, we're getting.
the expense involved with operating this kind of thing. Um, MRIs and functional MRIs are no joke. Um, Sketch therapy gave, and just by the way, it's all love to Asian American. We know he's
Yes,
a
we
funny
love you.
guy. Sketch therapy gave another super chat. You're being so generous today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Without vetting, you import refugees and their oppressors. And I have to agree with this because we have so many friends. I have had way too many friends go through the refugee system and refugee detainment facilities talking about the level of extremism that they have to live amongst when they're going through these systems, primarily in Europe, in my experience. And they're like, that's why, in my experience, the people I know who have the strongest line on immigration in Europe and the strongest line on asylum seeking in Europe are people who are former asylum seekers themselves in Europe. Because they're like, you haven't seen what I've seen. I know I had to go through this. It's insane. Um
I mean,
I
the fact that so many people who were actually deserving of refugee status felt more scared in
Yeah.
these refugee centers than sometimes in their own country shows the type of people that they're letting in. The fact that some ex-Muslims, when they come into this refugee camps, they're like, "Holy fuck, get me the fuck out of here! I'm gonna die here.
They have
Like
their
I'm gonna
lives
die in
threatened.
this refugee camp. More like the risk of my life is higher in Germany in this refugee camp than where I came from." Okay, imagine when ex-Muslims tell us that. Imagine the people who we're letting in, if that's what the ex-Muslims are reporting in this refugee camps.
And anecdotally, the worst experiences that I've heard of all happen in Germany.
Yeah,
Islam is asking, "Are you ex-Muslims?" Yes, Armin here is a is an ex-Muslim.
Susie is not an ex-Muslim because she's Shia. Okay.
That's true. That's true.
She-
That was a good
She's
one.
an ex-Catholic Shia. Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
After the show every day, I'd turn off the camera and go cry for Hussein.
Oh,
Um
I knew it.
Okay, and then John is saying Denmark could be an outlier, though. I think a more aggressive, accept Israel German policy could be a better deal. No, no, but John, the problem is that a lot of Denmark's policies are directed towards addressing the bleeding that is already happening. So they've closed off the valve, but then they also have to address who's already here. So a lot of their issues are regarding who's already here. Germany's new policy of the accepting and Israel policy is brand new. That's not tackling the who's already here. And also he's saying Denmark could be an outlier though. Well, the problem is that there's so little data that is collected by European authorities. I think because they don't want to see how ugly the data really is, if I'm being completely honest. I learned a lot of this information from a YouTube channel called Into Europe, which is this like very nice,
Very
very
objective.
intelligent French dude who just looks at the data and the lack of the data and goes out of his way to just go find it and put it together himself. And he presents controversial European topics in just like a very straightforward, objective way. And it's very informative. And
He's
it's
very, very careful to be as objective as he possibly can.
yeah.
If you want to see data broken down to you without any bias, that person is freaking amazing. And he
Hmm.
will just give it to you in any way. Like you might, like some people, you might not. Both sides might not like what he has to say because he's just that objective about it. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Um, So, okay, I've got another from our generous friend Gasian saying, then people send unfavorable neural maps for deprogramming and to wash their brain from extremism. Okay, see, Gasian, I got your ticket right here. The the Chinese thought reform is jumping out. A lot of people don't know that the
Okay.
term brainwashing actually comes from Chinese, because the Chinese communists were the first to systematize a systematic program of thought reform. Um, it's just his culture
You
of
know,
who am I to say?
You know, I have a free market, less invasive, less government mandated program solution for you, Asian American, that might make you happy. Okay, imagine if we had a society where people who voluntarily would go and get their brain scanned to show that they're not a threat, they would get less police checkups, or they will get better insurance rates, or I don't know. Basically, instead of that, instead of the government coming out and mandating it, anybody who goes and voluntarily does that, they get basically more of a free pass, less of a less checking, more trust, and also better insurance rates. That
Mhm.
would be a better, I think, in between.
Do you mind covering the next two super chats while I go to the bathroom?
Yeah, hold on. Let me see. If guys, are we everything okay? Because the griddle, heavy griddle was saying no, the stream is working. Okay. I will do the next super chats while Susie
Okay.
goes to the washroom. Okay, let me do. I know people prefer Susie reading their super chats, but this is what you get. Okay, I don't care. And Nail Bunny is saying here in the UK, we all know nice Muslims, families here for generations. They're the reason most think Islam is fine. We must only let in ex-Muslims. Okay, I have a controversial take here. Fuck. I don't even know. I wish Susie was here to stop me from saying this. Okay, guys, I'm just gonna say it. Okay, I'm just gonna say it, and this might come. And if you want to call me out as an ex-Muslim that came from the Middle East, call me out for it. Okay, I am just saying what I'm seeing, regardless of its consequences. What this would have been to me if this was applied to me as well. Okay, even it might seem unfair, but I believe in it, and if you just want to correct me, just tell me why I'm wrong. I will remain open minded about this. Okay, I think you should just shut it down completely from Islamic countries. Including, I mean, ex-Muslims, LGBT, even if they deserve it. You you have failed to figure this shit out. You have failed to figure out exactly who is you are paralyzing your country. uh just shut it down. There are already enough people who could benefit from immigration wise from non-Islamic countries who might need it as well, who are well deserving as well. It's not worth the risk to these countries to just any program that wants to open the door a little bit. um I mean, until you fix your countries completely, like, which I don't like, from this Muslim threat, I think you need to completely 100% the number of people you accept from any Islamic country, or even Islamic countries with Islamic governments, right? Needs to be zero. Even no Muslims, no ex-Muslims, no LGBT, no Christians, even if they deserve it. You have to take care of your own country first. Anyways, that might be a controversial take. I don't know. Uh, Maybe I'm wrong, but correct me. Anyways, so yeah, Susie, we have to go. You're right. So you could read the next.
Um, Gasian also said immigrants. So his brain scan regime would be for immigrants, not citizens, and the science we discover might be worth the return on investment. Would an NGO conducting these scans put you at ease? Well, Gasian, if I have a background in human subjects research. And there's some ethical questions involved with vulnerable populations, at-risk populations. Um, it's an interesting field study. Anyways, um,
We're gonna another super chat.
also John is responding to you saying, hard disagree, Armin. My significant other, when in Turkey, encountered loads of Iranians, all atheist. So he's giving that as an example counterpoint. Off topic, is it normal to not drive at 30 plus in the USA? That's me. John, I'm sorry to inform you that no, it's not normal because in America we have the car tax, which is to exist in this country, you have to have a car. It's the car tax, okay? Most cities you have to have a car for transportation. Um,
I
so
don't understand what you're
anyways,
disagreeing with me on. I know that, like, that doesn't counter my point. I'm an
but
atheist from
it's
Iran,
our whole
right?
community. Especially, I mean,
It's
we
our
have an
whole
entire Persian
community.
channel dedicated to this community.
Yeah, and we have had so many shows regarding the rise of non-religious views in Iran, the number of people who left Islam in Iran. So I don't, like, where's it? What, that doesn't even negate my point. So I don't even have a disagreement with you. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Iran is not a Muslim majority country. I agree with that, but at the same time, it's a Muslim governed country, Islamic governed country. Again, I don't know. Maybe Iran would. The reason why I'm hesitant to say Iran should be an exception is because that might be my bias because I'm Iranian and I'm an ex-Muslim, and maybe you're right. Maybe if there's one country in the Middle East that should be an exception is Iran. But again, um, that coming from me being an Iranian might be seen as hypocritical. Like, oh, do accept immigrants from all countries, no countries in the Middle East except the one that I'm from. So that's why I'm hesitant to say that, right? But anyways,
Yep. Which also happens to be the country which is the head of the octopus of this Joaquin
hmm.
this bullshit. But that's very self-aware, Armin. I appreciate that. Nail Bunny gave another super chat saying, "Not controversial, Armin. It makes sense. Perhaps they need to stay and fight for ex-Muslim rights in their own country." Oh well, that's not happening.
Yeah, yeah, and I actually no, like the point I'm not making is not that they don't deserve to come to Europe or to be protected. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, they absolutely deserve it. I'm just saying that the priority should be saving the liberal countries from falling. I'm not saying these people don't deserve it. I'm not saying it would not be a good thing to provide protection for them. It would absolutely be a
Or you're
justified
not
and
saying
good
that
thing,
there's not a
right?
cost.
Yes, there's a cost associated with not accepting these people. This is a huge cost, okay? So I'm not dismissing that, but I'm just saying, priorities. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
Engaging American just gave us
he's
a
still pushing. He's still
they're
pushing.
pushing.
Okay, saying favorable insurance rates. Yes, Armin. Now you're thinking like a Shanghainese Shanghainese Taoist with capitalistic characteristics.
Thank you. Also, I
Yes,
see.
you are finding the way.
I'm sad a little bit because I made John sad, and I know why he's sad, and I understand it. Sorry,
No, I mean,
I
when we
might be
talked about
wrong.
this the first time, I
I,
cried on stream.
yeah, I'm sorry John. I understand. You have a big heart, John. You have a big heart. Don't. I'm not dismissing the importance of sympathy and wanting to care for other people. So I hope you don't feel like I hope you don't feel less of me for saying all of this. Okay, maybe I'm
There's one
wrong.
thing I can
Correct me
say
if
for
I'm wrong.
sure is that Armin does not say this lightly.
Yeah. I mean, I know too many people who deserve this protection personally. So I'm not saying this because I don't care for them. I know these people.
Yeah,
Okay.
we love them.
Okay.
Oh
All right. Let's move on. I
my god,
need.
and we
We
got
have
another
more
super
super
chat
chat. Yeah.
saying, should the population of thank you, first of all, Anna. Thank you for the super chat. Should the population of the EU challenge Islam more? What could be an action we can take to protect our values and free speech? 100% yes to the first question. What can an action we take to protect our values and free speech? Like challenge all of these bureaucrats and politicians who seem to just have a hatred and resentment of free speech. Like all of these and we're going to talk about it actually later in the show, essentially the implementation of secularized blasphemy laws. This needs to be pushed back with the harshest terms possible. Um
Right.
Yeah, not accepting
And
people who whitewash this stuff, calling out people who just wanna, equivocate,
yeah, and
talking to people in your
I mean,
day-to-day life about
yeah.
how your mind changed. That's a big one, honestly.
And the ex-Muslims that you already have, they're an asset in this fight, so maybe you could use them as well.
Yeah,
Especially
100%.
if you're not going to let anyone any more in, you might take advantage of the ones that you already have in this fight.
What are some actions you could take? I don't know, go make some friends with your local Iranian community. In my experience, they're the most hardcore secularists I've ever met.
Right, there's that.
Like here in my local
Okay.
community, most of them are not even necessarily atheists. They actually come from a Baha'i community. A lot of Baha'is. But they're the most hardcore secularists.
Sometimes a little bit too hardcore, but I'm not
Yeah.
gonna go there right now.
Yeah. I'm not gonna be too critical right now.
Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.